Hey everybody, in this video we're going to do a sew along for the baby doll storage tote pattern. To get started, here's a look at all the supplies you're going to need. We have the main body fabric. We're using a teal lightweight thin wale corduroy. And then we have a couple different quilting cotton fabrics for the lining. We're using this London print that's very cute. It's got a mix of all the colors. This polka dot up here we're using for the top sheet section that flips over. And then we're using a cream color vintage looking muslin for the top layer of the bed. And that coordinates nicely with our eyelet trim that we have picked out, which is a vintage trim, which ties in the cream into all of the colors together. Then you're also going to need pins, a zipper presser foot, a walking presser foot if you want to do the quilting yourself. And along with that, you're going to need some thin batting that comes in a sheet. You'll use that to do the quilting for the lining and the top layer of the bed. Rotary cutter, a long zipper. This is 59 inches and it has a double opening from the center, so we can just pull it open and the zipper pulls can meet at the center. You can also use two separate zippers that both end at the center front. Two 18-inch zippers will work fine. We have double-sided quilter's tape to hold the zipper in place. Piping, this is pre-packaged piping. We have 7 yards, so we have 3 packages. It coordinates nicely. We were able to find it in the right color. If you want to make your own piping, you can watch the tutorial for how to do that using fabric and cording that you have or that you purchase. And one other thing I'll note, sometimes you can find pre-quilted fabric, which will save the first few steps of the pattern instructions where we quilt our own fabric for that top of the bed and for the lining. To get started, we're going to go ahead and cut out all of the pattern pieces, and we'll do that according to the pattern instructions. I just wanted to show you one thing that I did a little bit differently. Because I had fabric that I really wanted to use, it was a little bit less than the yardage required, but I was able to cut out all of my pieces because I folded it in towards the center, and it gave me a little bit more usable cutting area to get everything set on the pieces properly. So this is just a good tip as you're working to cut things out. I also just used a section the size of the bed top where it would be 2 layers of fabric to know that I could cut out both the bed top and the blanket top, being that I'm using the same fabric for both. And my bed top fabric here is actually the lining. Again, I'm going to use that muslin for the top side of the bag where there is a bed top piece. So you just go ahead and pin and cut out all of the pattern pieces required for the lining, for any of the contrasting colors of the lining pieces or the bed top pieces, and then do the same with the fabric for the body of the bag. And here we have the cut pieces for the lining. We have the front and back, the sides, the zipper placket on the inside, which is narrower, and the back band. Here we have the pieces for the top of the bed. So on the right, you can see we have the cream color muslin, that is the entire top. We have the London print as the blanket, the blue polka dot as that top sheet fold over edge, and this really cute vintage eyelet trim that's going to trim that off. And then for the underside, we have the London print cut as the top of the bag. That's the full size. It will be the interior lining piece. And then this smaller piece of the cream muslin is the back side of the blanket top for the bed, so that it's sandwiched between or around the batting, so the doll slips in and out nicely. It's very smooth on both sides. Here we just cut the straps, and for this fabric I actually didn't have enough yardage to cut it in the direction with the wale going the long way along the straps, so we just decided to cut this with the wale going across. And honestly, this is such a fine texture of corduroy that this is still going to work fine in this pattern. So this is just a great example of kind of working with what you have and making adjustments as you go. Here we have the cut pieces for the bag body. This is the outside fabric. We have the front and back, the sides, the zipper placket, the back band, and the straps. Now we have one more thing to cut out before we begin sewing the pattern, and that is the batting that's going to really give the bag its structure. So we have our batting rolled out flat, and then we're going to want to cut out all of the lining pieces. So we have the front and back and the 2 side pieces for the ends, all cut from 1 layer of batting. And then you're going to want to cut the entire top piece from one piece of batting and then the size of the blanket itself. For the bed top, you're going to sandwich the fabric with the right sides out with the batting in between, and then you can decide. You can either draw lines across the fabric with an erasable or heat erasable pen and do just simple diamond shaped quilting, straight line quilting, any pattern. Really, you can be as creative as you want. If you have a print that has a really cute design on it, like the one I have here, you could even take the time to quilt around the little shapes, flowers, hearts, anything like that that you want to have stand out. For this one, because it's such a busy print, I'm simply going to do a couple tacks with my machine, almost like a tufted look for the top to hold that all together. Then for the lining of the body of the bag, we'll just sew it quilted in a couple straight lines across to really hold it all together. There is no backing fabric, it's just the fabric right side up placed on top of the batting, and then we'll just quilt those pieces before we sew them together. I didn't have any issue doing this step on my machine. The batting went through fine on top of my feed dogs. If you do, you might want to try using a walking foot while you're doing that quilting step. And here we have all of the pieces that need to be quilted. So we have the two front and back pieces quilted just with basic squares. I have the two end pieces quilted with straight lines, and then I did an X right across the middle of each one. And the blanket for the top, again, this one we did not quilt in the diamond pattern, we just tufted. It has 9 tufts that are just equally distanced apart across the top of the blanket, and then I basted around the edges of all of these pieces.